Welcome back to the Fraud and Tell series. I'm your host, Maxim Baldakov, Head of Fraud and Financial Crime Solutions at Group IB, covering META region. Today with us we have Julian Laurent. Julian, thank you so much for coming. And to kick things off, could you please tell us a little bit about your background, about yourself, and most importantly, how did you end up in the fraud prevention industry?
Yes, yeah. Well, Max, thank you for having me. Yes, I'm Julian Laurent. I'm the Senior Product Manager at Group IB for Cyber Fraud Intelligence. And the background, 20 years in fighting fraud, it's been a while. So I started my career in financial crime at LexisNexis for quite some time. Then I had the privilege to move to Swift when I was a head of a financial crime and compliance solution for the Central Eastern Europe region. And I was there for a few years and we did some really exciting stuff. But then I got given the opportunity to come to Group IB 4 or 5 years ago now. I'm not sure, time flies.
Yeah.
And it's been a ride, right? Because we're now moving fast, like the institution move fast, keep up.
Mm-hmm.
That's my journey to this table.
I see. Julian, 20 years seems like a lot of time. You must be, really excited about what you do. What keeps you motivated to keep going?
Two things is that we're never bored in what we do, right? Because if you want to keep up with the threat actors and the fraudsters out there, what you thought was the rule book last week is gone this week. Yeah. They change, they adapt. And we often speak about that, but, I think you and I experience that sometimes we still have customers that still believe that they are facing one guy in his mom's basement.
Yeah, in the parents' garage, yes.
When actually, no, these guys are super organized and it's super specialized. They're selling services, they're advertising services in dark forums and telegrams, channels, or what have you, any kind of social media really that they can use. But we see them, I've seen some that they're using the same marketing strategy. There's some big giant out there. I don't say the name here, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
We have different package, support package. It's fraud as a business. So that's, I think, what really keep us going is that you always challenge, always how do you react? How do you anticipate what we're doing? How do you predict what we're going to do next? It's very exciting.
Yeah. Talking about the fraudsters organizations, I heard a story once that one of such network of fraudsters and scammers got so big, they even got an HR department, working for them to make sure the benefits are there, the progression in their careers are there. It's crazy to see.
It makes me smile, but in the same time, I should not be smiling, right? It's very concerning. I did a conference a few years back with the FBI at a convention, but they were showing entire scam centers in Jacoban buildings dedicated in places when because they are in some countries are not necessarily collaborative, they can't actually, even they're there, there's little you can do.
Yeah.
And I have this other story that once in a previous career where there was a call center that was a scam call center where the people working there, they believe they work for the bank. They had employment contract that looked like the bank, and the office was on brand.
Wow.
But the point that it was on brand is that my colleague that was working for the bank, when we were looking at this case, that person told me, actually, we have the latest logo. My current office doesn't have the latest logo yet, right? And it shows the depth, because the reason they did this is they realized that if someone truly believes they're trying to harm someone, they're going to be more convincing on the phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they thought, okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make these guys believe that they're here to help. So when you get them on the phone and the person's really truly believe they're trying to help you, from a social engineering point of view, it's very powerful, right? So I think the lesson is there's no limit. These guys will stop at nothing to get going.
Yeah, because from their perspective, it's a lucrative business, right? You can get literally rich overnight by conducting some of the scam operations. You mentioned very important topic. In your career, you used to work at Swift, right? Could you please tell us a little bit more about this time of your life and how do you see the fraud landscape is different, and what does it have in common with what we do now?
It actually has very little in common, right? In a sense where at Swift we were looking at institution to institution, so it was always like protecting bank, like protecting the castle, as you call it, right? With different layer of security, and the level of sophistication that you will have to be able to go nowhere near that is immense. And that's probably why you never hear in the news like bank system got compromised and someone managed to steal the money of the bank, because they've done an incredibly good job in securing both the payment network on the Swift side is as bulletproof as it can be, and then on the bank side, the way to access it is also like incredibly secure. And that's why we see a lot more of activity now moving into fraud. Like again, when we work with the FBI, they were indicating that many large criminal organizations that previously might have been to drug trafficking or moving money for terrorism reason, they're now moving into fraud because it's relatively low cost.
Yeah.
And yet you can move an incredible amount of money because again, the bank, for example, have done a very good job to stop international payment between institutions that are sanctioned or listed, and, to stop the money.
Yeah.
So now they're generating the money wherever they need it by running scams and these kind of things.
Yeah, by localizing their operations. I understand.
Absolutely.
Julian, I want to ask you a question. So it seems like this, I would say, institution to institution fraud landscape is pretty much minimal because the defenses are pretty much already well structured. The ecosystem is built, right? It's pretty well defended. Do you think it's possible to achieve the same level of, I would say, fraud prevention maturity in the retail banking? Like we're talking about, any time frame, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Do you see that happening one day? That there will be a moment of time when you will rarely hear about the, successful fraud case or scam case for regular individuals?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, if you look back at the journey of the banks when they started to try to really control terrorism funding and imposing sanction, it didn't happen overnight, right?
Yeah.
But then eventually it got so hard to try to move through classical network that they had to adapt. And I think the same thing is happening with fraud now. So if you look at the typical, like oldish method of account takeover, malware, trying to get access and control your payment in order to drain your bank account. When we look at the stats, the more solution like ours, fraud protection, and the work that your team is doing with local analysts that understand the local fraud landscape, the local fraud type, the more these doors are closing, the harder it gets for them to perform this kind of activity, the more they're switching to different method, right? So you can tell us a word or two about that, but if we think of like non-authorized payment, I think it's fair to say that when you see the result of you and your team, it's becoming pretty hard to be successful in this campaign.
Actually, we did notice significant shifts in the fraud attempts. As you correctly said, we call it unauthorized fraud attempts. Majority of fraud is now moving to APP or authorized push payment fraud, right? So we are definitely seeing that change in dynamics. But just want to add a small comment on what you previously mentioned. I think the fact that we live in the environment where this institutional level fraud is pretty much non-existent is because of a lot of hard work that has been done in the past. And I think the people that work in the industry, they sometimes don't get enough credit because it feels like, you take it as a granted, right?
For sure. It's, it's something which is not, you don't advertise this thing because it's not sexy to the consumer. Right? You don't go, hey, look at my compliance officer here. It's not something you're going to get on the Super Bowl advert. Let us talk to you about our compliance officer. But it's been thousands of people that dedicate their life to stop financial crime. And I think often for those people, it's quite personal, right? They're not just doing it as a 9-to-5 job because it's not 9 to 5, right? And to go back to your question, how you stay motivated, and without sounding righteous, I think you need to have that desire to make a difference and to feel like your work is helping. Because here, institution, they insured, there's money leaving. Sure, it's not great for shareholders, but usually they're a quite solid institution.
Yeah.
Here, what we're doing is we're looking at guys in the street, and the people you cross every day in your life, people for whom if they lose their saving, it can have a drastic effect on their life. It can really put them in a very difficult situation. So it's a different level, like a human connection on what we do, because you're not talking about an entity somewhere that is massive. You actually can impact people's life.
Exactly.
It's something that feels good in the morning when, sometimes it's early, the stupid o'clock flight, or and that you luckily, if you're lucky, you're going to make an impact on people's life. That's
you're doing it for a reason. Absolutely. Talking about authorized push payment fraud, right? So why that shift is happening? I want to ask you a question, but just provide a bit of background. For example, why fraudsters are moving towards this form of scam, this form of fraud, is because in case of unauthorized fraud operation, right, unauthorized fraud attempts, it pretty much, I don't want to say it's easy to catch, but there are some really strong indicators, right, like unusual location, device, big red flags. In case of APP, authorized push payment fraud, it is the customer himself that is doing the transaction. He's convinced he's making a legitimate transfer. It's a legitimate device, location. Even can be typical time of the day for his day-to-day activities. What is your vision in stopping such sophisticated level of fraud and stealthy level of fraud? What is your advice here?
And that's the thing, right? They realize that these things are not working anymore. And more we're getting better at stopping them, taking accounts. But we're not about to just fold, said, okay, we're out of business, I'm going to get a regular job now. These guys, so then what we're looking at is that, unfortunately, there's over-opening. So APP fraud, the big difference is, like you said, they are the one making the decision. So the normal way for us to look at it, it doesn't work because it's the right person. And then in their mind, you say, okay, how do I convince someone to give me money? Well, it's social engineering, right? So it's Roman scam,
investment scam.
So investment scam. Like, so unfortunately, geoeconomics plays a role in there. When times gets harder, when there's a period of downturn in economy, there's more people that are getting worried, desperate, and they're more likely to fall for something that normally they might not. But if someone is hard up, they're struggling with money, which is where there's a perversity thing with what these guys are doing. Someone is struggling to pay the bills. They're more likely to lose critical thinking when they receive some promise of like crypto is booming. You can give me some money on this fake platform. They invest on a fake platform. The platform looks like their crypto investment is going up and up, so they put more money. But they don't know that this is just smoke and mirror. That money is long gone. And the day they try to get the money out, sorry, buddy, it was a fake thing. It's gone.
Too late. So what's the general approach? What's the next?
So the next approach, and you see the regulators out there, when we're looking at APP fraud, the problem is we live in a world of instant payment. Money, you give money to a fraudster, it's gone in a few seconds. It's been layered between multiple accounts, and within an hour, it could be abroad in another country when some countries are not collaborative. You're never going to see that money back. And so the big challenge currently is to stop APP fraud. You need to work in real time. Because payment is real time. However, the problem is currently a legal framework when it comes to privacy, rules that are here to protect people, so GDPR and so on, here to protect your privacy. There are some strict restriction to say that although you're supposed to be able to share to stop fraud, you need to be fairly certain you're sharing something which is definitely fraud related. So currently the handicap is that you can only share data for confirmed fraud. Because even if you use some existing cryptography system like hashing, hash can be re-identified. So if I have a list of victim account and a mule account that I know, you transform that into hash, then you can do what's called like a rainbow table, and you can re-identify it. That means that the privacy is not respected. So the big challenge for the industry is they get told by financial regulators, you must share information to stop APP because the only way is to be real time, to identify this account very quickly before the money's got time to move. But they're facing the wall of privacy. So it's something we realized a few years back. And so what we did, we worked hard on that, and I must give my hat to our home genius, Pavel Krylov, which is like our mind scientist.
Yeah, the man's a legend.
And he created, and we have patented this at Group IB, what we call the distributed tokenization. And we had this validated by Bureau Veritas, that it is GDPR compliant, because our token, although we have a formulation that makes that it doesn't matter which bank is querying about the data to say we think that bank details is suspicious, to get some context from other bank. Because the weakness of this scam, they run in numbers, right? Is you email as many people as you can to try to get the money.
Yeah, it's a scale economy.
That's it. And that is the weakness, because then the bank will have some doubt about that transaction, because bank are, they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
It's just that they are stuck between creating friction for client in order to investigate and frustrating the client. They cannot afford to block any payment that kind of raises some level of fraud.
Yeah.
But here, what we are doing is we are providing this tool that allow them to work together. Because the scam is running on high scale, there will be other banks that also have some flag about it. And sharing that information with each other means that now they go from uncertainty to certainty on the one that are being used by Mule network. Because when a Mule account get activated, you suddenly get a lot of funds that are coming. And I don't know about you, but I never wake up with strangers sending me money, right? I mean, if anyone wants to send me money, but there are signs. But these signs usually in classical method, by the time they share it, by the time it is legal to share, it's too late. But now, because we created that token that allow them, without any exposure to GDPR, to do this check with each other. And all they're sharing is a risk score associated. They ingest it into their own system. And they can go from uncertainty to certainty and focus on those and let the other pass. That is a big revolution for the industry. And so we're launching it very soon. And we're very excited about that. We obviously worked already with, we have one central bank with whom we've worked when results have been very promising. They help us get off the ground with this. And we have other technological partners with whom we are working, like AWS in some of our area. So we're excited on the impact we're going to have to help people, not just the industry, but also the people behind it, the people that are currently at risk to lose their life saving.
So it's very exciting. So just if I were to summarize it, right, according to what you said, to stop APP fraud, the most, I would say, effective way, you see it through information sharing on Mule infrastructure, or on fraudsters infrastructure, right? That's okay.
Real time. At the end of the day, if you want to stop them, because they understand, like our study showed that when a scam is start to run, when it's activated, it start a campaign, and fraud start happening, within 2 hours, only 20% of fraud are reported within 2 hours.
Yeah, I saw the statistics.
Right, and it gets crazier because people are busy. They run a busy life, right? So when you look at it, after 24 hours, it doesn't even reach 60% of fraud being reported. And this is the stat on fraud that gets reported, because the thing with APP, often people don't report it.
Yes, they don't understand.
Because they're ashamed. They're ashamed. They got fooled and they think, money is gone anyway. Why do I need to embarrass myself to admit that that money was stolen, right? So if it's money they can afford to lose, they tend to stick
it depends on the amount of money.
But it's a numbers game, right? So when you are able to share the suspicion in real time and get enough information to identify this Mule account, Mule network, how they connected by sharing information with the bank. And at the moment, they only share a token, right? So it's not people's data. But once there's enough proof that there's a connection, they can then investigate internally. So they know where to look. Because we are talking millions and millions of transactions every day. It's a needle in a haystack. And without that critical information, you don't know which needle you're going after.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. We're zeroing in on where we should spend the resources.
I spoke with one of our cyber fraud team lead on a previous episode, and we the topic of discussion was exactly the mule accounts. I think what you said is 100% correct, because you saw our fraud matrix, right? With all the tactics, techniques, and so on, phases, and so on. If you look at it from the high level, you will see that there is every week there is a new tactic when it comes to, let's say, end user interaction, or it comes to deception, or defense, evasion, something like this. So majority of the innovation from the fraudster side comes at the early stages of the cyber fraud kill chain. But when it comes to monetization and cashing out the money, all of this innovation converges to like 3 or 4 techniques in general.
That's right. And it's actually how we get to that, right? Because we created the fraud matrix about 2 years ago when we started to analyze. And then you lay out the different technique they are using, the tools they need to be successful in this scheme. And then that's where we saw APP fraud, whether it's Roman scam, investment scam, there's always that same weak point. Find the mule account, stop the mule account, the scheme collapse. And what we're looking at now is to see these guys. It's not cheap to set up this mule account. They have to put a lot of effort into them. And we see how much they sell KYC past account on the dark web and on forum. We know that it costs them a lot of money to build this infrastructure. So when you're able to react within the first 1 or 2 victims, and we're talking 40 milliseconds currently where we launched it, right? 40 milliseconds, you share information between bank to tell them there's a strong indicator that that's a mule account. And you shut down the mule account before they can even make them investment. There's a satisfying thing for us, is that these guys spend all that money trying to plan this, and when they press the launch button, they hope they're going to run for a few days, make some money, and when you can shut them down within minutes and destroy that make that infrastructure they develop useless, it's quite satisfying.
Yeah. Look, I think since we work with this on a daily basis, it's not very impressive to us. But if you kind of zoom out and look from the third-party perspective, man, it's crazy what kind of infrastructure and technologies we have in place. Talking about this central bank project that you implemented, there are like more than 50 banks connected to the system, right?
Yeah, 50 bank, 4 payment rails. Because it's lightweight, right? We provide this microservice that they put in the environment, and then it's completely flexible. Today we're talking about APP fraud, but in reality, it can be used for KYC. You can check, is that phone number being used by multiple people? I mean, my daughter had a mobile phone number before she had a bank account. So if you see now in modern days, the same mobile phone being used for multiple bank accounts, it will flag. Now, fraudster knows that they can't use the same mobile phone with the 2 identities in the same bank, but they also know that banks cannot communicate that data with each other. But now you can. So if there's a mismatch, and again, we're looking at token, I don't need to know your mobile phone, just a token that says that mobile phone is showing up in different database, but the token that shows the name associated is not the same. Doesn't make sense, right? Because, I mean, maybe in some countries, but in most countries, you don't share your mobile phone. So in reality, the more we work with this technology, every day we see some new use cases we can do. In the US, we have conversation about loan fraud, burst out fraud. I mean, I could geek on about what we can do with that for days. So to answer your earlier question, the next 5 years is guaranteed excitement on how we can bring new things to the market, makes it even more difficult for these guys to be able to make a living out of that. And hopefully save a lot of people's savings in a way and protect some lives, which is, I know it sounds grandiose, but...
Yeah, I definitely see it within reach. As you correctly said, it is possible. Look, we already have confirmed cases, confirmed studies where we pretty much stop unauthorized fraud. Now the question is how do we stop scam? How do we stop APP? This kind of stuff. And you provided already a blueprint on how to do that.
Well, I'm lucky that I get to be here to talk about it today. There's a lot of people behind that are working hard to build this. So I'm just a figurehead. I get lucky to get to show off what we've done. But trust me, my friend, there's many people that deserve a lot of glory for that. But it's exciting, right? It's exciting to see that we can make an impact, and as much as what you're doing every day already is having an impact, I think what we are doing with the cyber fraud intelligence platform is hyper scaling. So the cheeky things that I'm trying to create the Swift of the anti-fraud, the way Swift has been amazing to make payment.
Yeah.
I'm dragging that into this when I'm hoping we can create the equivalent in fraud, like a very systemic system that can help nations stopping fraud.
It honestly still boggles my mind. You mentioned this case where we deployed this solution in one of the central bank in one of the region. Like you mentioned, more than 50 institutions, fintechs, payment system providers, all of them are pouring, millions of transactions per second. And you have some solution that process all of that in real time and identifies link with confirmed fraud, suspected fraud, mule accounts, some other things. It's I don't want to brag, but sounds like rocket science. To be honest, I think the guys at our technical side did some miracles there.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna put myself. I'm not gonna look good out of this, but when Pavel first explained to me the technology is built for it, it took me days to understand.
Oh man, it took me weeks. It took me weeks to understand. It was like back to school.
Well, exactly right. And I was like, come on, I've got a master degree in engineering. I can work this out. Yeah. But once you understand it, you're like, wow, yeah, of course, it makes all the sense in the world, right? And so. And that's why we went to a third party to get it validated, because often when we sit down with bank, we're like, guys, it's been a problem for so long. How come it's suddenly fixed, right? That's why we use the third party to really say, hey, it's not just us. It's not just a PowerPoint. Here it is. And it's exciting. We see the reaction of industry now that they see the proof. We see more and more that are talking like, let's do a POC. Just yesterday, I was talking to a great audience of CISOs of very big bank, and these guys are so smart, right? Once you've done that proof of concept, you gain the right to show them what you could do, and you can see this brain. I've learned 2 more use cases I didn't think of yesterday talking to these individuals. So thank you to them. But yeah, now we're excited. The future is bright with this on how much we can help. But obviously, as we are now working on deploying this, make it real, we already had our mad scientists thinking, okay, what are the guys are going to do once we do this? Because for sure, we can't let our guard down. We now have something, and there's some prediction to make on where we're going to move after that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure they'll find yet another way, sneaky way to still.
It's to keep up with them, But the next generation is here. As I'm growing older and gray hair, I know that I have colleagues that will take the flame.
Julian, talking about the new generation, as a seasoned veteran, do you have any advice for people who wants to start in the industry? What qualities do they need to have? What kind of traits they need to have to be successful in the field?
That's a great question. I think, let me think of that for a second. There is an incline of technology. You need to want to learn, right?
Oh yeah.
If you're not someone that when you see something, it doesn't interest you. But if you're the type of person that when you get something, you want to take it apart, see how it works, that's exactly what we do. Because you look at them, you reverse engineer what they're doing. Yeah. And once you reverse engineer it, like we did with the fraud matrix, you can then find a weak spot and laser focus on it.
Yeah.
But again, I think you need to believe in the mission, because it's long days. And so you need to really have that fire in your gut of doing something which is a bit bigger than yourself, that you can hopefully, with working with your colleagues, have a real impact. We said it a couple of times in the podcast, and that's really what it comes down to, I think, because it will be hard. These guys are smart. There are times when it's not always like we are now taking a victory lap. Sometimes you really struggle to see how can I stop them. So I would say, you need someone that have perseverance, really believe in what they're doing for when the day gets tough, but someone that can take a victory. Once in a while you win, And then you need to take 5 minutes to appreciate that you're
to
winning,
celebrate.
that you
Yeah,
did something
absolutely.
great, celebrate, enjoy that, recharge the battery, so
Mhm.
to see tomorrow's challenge.
If I were to add just a couple of cents to what you said, I would say that you also need to be open-minded and stay humble, because I personally seen a lot of unfortunate cases where people would come with some level of experience in the industry, and they think that they know how to solve this particular problem, because they had prior experience in a different
Yeah.
industry or something like this, and they completely fail because they couldn't understand. They couldn't look at the really complex problem at a different angle.
Yeah.
I think it really hurts, especially in the industry of fraud prevention, where, as you said, every day there is a new challenge. There is a new way fraudsters come up with ways to defraud customers, and
Yeah.
you have to stay humble. You have to always learn and be open to suggestions.
Do you know that's so true? Is if there's a word that I now hate, I used to love it, but I hate it now. Expert. Someone say I'm an expert, mostly talking of that field when things are moving so fast. I almost like it means you haven't learned enough yet to
Yeah.
know how much you don't know. Someone that says to me I'm a specialist, as something I specialize on, then you're like, okay, I can see you've been defeated enough to know that you don't know everything.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe, like, we are working, you and I are privileged to work with insanely smart person, but they will never come to a table and say, I know everything there is to know. My solution is 100%. Anyone that says that, you politely ask them to finish their coffee and leave your office, right? Because it's not possible in this world. It moves too fast.
Yeah, I agree. Julian, thank you so much for your time. I think it has been great.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and hope to see you in the next episodes.
Thank you, man.